he's like another threat. Obviously, since I started my career, all of them posed a threat to me. So obviously, like with Dillian Whyte, it's just trying to execute the game plan as usual.
Obviously, it's a must-win fight, and obviously, I'm going up against the next Mike Tyson, as in he's been compared to Mike Tyson and a lot of great fighters. You know what I mean? I'm just look with me.
Look, Dillian's in the business. He obviously wants to pay those, but he's in the he wants another shot at the title, and he wants to get himself into a position to do that. And for him, looking at all the fighters, all the organisations, you look at Moses. Moses is ranked #1 now by the WBO. So if he were to fight Moses, then that puts him in the #1 spot.
Moses Itauma's reply to Dillian Whyte's pullout warning is ice cold. No drama, no panic. Just a ruthless statement of intent. Step by step, fight by fight, and Whyte is firmly in his sights. That's the mindset of a young lion ready to eat.
It's just like step by step, fight by fight. If you're gonna ask me like what's my plan in this division, is to knock Dillian Whyte out, I guess.
Dillian tries to sound unfazed, insisting he doesn't care what anyone says. But when you keep repeating it, it starts to sound like you're convincing yourself more than others. Moses isn't just in the conversation, he's in Dillian's head, and that pressure can break even seasoned fighters.
Fixing the fight.
I don't know how I'm meant to feel. I don't really pay much attention to. I've never been someone to pay attention to what people's gotta say. I just do what I believe, and I say, yeah, okay, cool, and just do whatever the fuck I want anyway. So yeah, I don't really, I try and focus on me and what I'm doing and what my kids and family is doing. I don't care about some idiots' attention land. Who is these people?
Next, Dillian talks about his strategy, but can it truly handle a relentless young lion like Moses? Dillian explains he's focusing on more than just a single punch, aiming to bring strategy, timing, and setups into the fight. But against Moses, that window to execute can close in seconds. With relentless pressure and lightning speed, Moses could force Whyte into survival mode before any strategy takes shape.
There's a lot more punches than that, and I have a lot more punches than that. So, I'm not just focusing on one punch. I'm focusing more on strategy and get into the strategic position to learn what we're learning. It's softball, so you can't just walk up to them and learn left hook and then the same like you do on other people. So you have to set it up and timing and stuff. So yeah, I've just been working more on that.
And now Tyson Fury shares his thoughts on how this fight could play out. Fury calls it a good fight, and he's right. This is a perfect time for Moses to face Dillian. Whyte has been inactive, yet still dangerous. The question is, how much of the old Whyte remains? If he's even slightly faded, Moses will pounce and make the step up look effortless.
That's a good fight, actually, especially for Moses. I think it's a very good time to fight Dillian. He's had a couple of years out the ring. But, make no mistakes, Dillian Whyte is a massive puncher to head and body. I know he's taking it very serious. I'm speaking to Ty Mitchell, who's in training camp with him. And looking forward to the fight. It's a big step up for Moses because he hasn't really fought anybody on Dillian's level. The old Dillian, it was a couple of years ago. And it's going to be interesting to see how much that Dillian Whyte has left.
Next, Frank Warren weighs in on Dillian's punching power and how it could test Moses. Warren reminds everyone Dillian Whyte is no stranger to knockouts. He's put world-class fighters on the canvas, but that danger works both ways.
But I'm talking about with somebody who doesn't fiddle around, somebody who actually would like to get him in the latter rounds and is capable of knocking people over. He's a puncher. You've seen him do it, and he's done it with world-class.
Jordan cuts right to the business logic. Moses is being put in with Whyte because his team believes the risk is minimal. In their eyes, this isn't a high jeopardy fight. It's a calculated step up. YT might take a few rounds, maybe push Moses into unfamiliar territory, but the expectation is clear. Moses wins, and wins convincingly. This perspective highlights the confidence surrounding the young star, but it also heaps pressure on him. If Moses underperforms, critics will question whether he was ready for a name like Whyte. On the flip side, if he dismantles Dillian as expected, it sends a brutal message to the division. This 20-year-old isn't just a prospect, he's a nightmare in the making.
I think it's a great fight.
you know. But it'll be fascinating to see how Moses goes against Dillian. I don't think they put him in against Dillian Whyte if they think there's real jeopardy for them. I think they might get a few rounds and get asked a few more questions than possibly they've been asked by Marius Wack and Dempsey McKean. But I don't think they think much more.
And Adam Smith breaks down exactly why Moses is such a puzzle to face. Smith nails the essence of Moses' danger. He controls the ring like a veteran. His footwork, range, and timing force opponents into a lose-lose choice: attack and get countered, or stay back and get walked down. For YT, this is a nightmare stylistic matchup. His best work comes from closing distance and landing heavy shots, but Moses' movement could make that a frustrating, exhausting task. This means Dillian will need more than raw power. He'll need to solve a tactical riddle while avoiding traps. If he can't figure Moses out early, the younger fighter will dictate every second of the fight, breaking YT down until there's nothing left.
The problem with Moses is that his feet and his distance and his range is so good and he's so quick that if you commit to the punches, you're going to get countered. And if you don't, you're going to get backed up and taken out. So it's a real puzzle. There's not many heavyweights that are southpaws. Obviously, Alexander Usyk is, but he's moved up into that domain.
And then there's Derek Chisora, never one to sugarcoat his opinion, laying out just how slim White's chances might be. Chisora doesn't bother with diplomacy. He flat out says YT's odds are worse than winning the lottery. Harsh? Maybe. Realistic? Possibly. Moses' youth, elite training, and momentum give him every advantage. YHC, on the other hand, is coming off inactivity and has taken serious damage in recent years. Chisora's comment might be blunt, but it underlines the narrative most fans are already thinking this is Moses' fight to lose. For Dillian to flip that script, he'd need to summon the performance of his life, something that's hard to imagine given the physical and mental wear he's endured.
A boxing guy who's 24 years old, who's got his faculties right, getting trained by one of the best trainers in the United Kingdom, and then mate, it's like you got more chance of winning the lottery than you beating that Moses Itauma. Let's be.
Finally, Johnny Nelson offers his perspective on what this fight represents for Whyte at this stage of his career. Nelson frames it as a good fight, but hints at a truth many in boxing whisper: Dillian might now be in gatekeeper territory. A gatekeeper is still dangerous, still capable of hurting opponents, but no longer expected to be at the very top. This is exactly the kind of opponent promoters love for a young rising star, experienced enough to provide credibility, yet vulnerable enough to be beaten. For Moses, a dominant win here would prove he can handle not just prospects, but seasoned veterans with world-level experience. For Whyte, it's a chance to show he's not just a stepping stone, but if Nelson's gatekeeper comment holds weight, this fight could mark the start of Dillian's final chapter in the sport.
Until that new star establishes himself, so just wait and see, but it's exciting.
What do you make of Itauma versus Dillian Whyte?
It's a good fight. Dillian likes to fight. He'll have a tear up. Yeah. You know, you can't test this man for honors. You know, he'll fight anybody and everybody. So with Dillian doing that, you think, you know what? You know, it's a good fight, good testing fight, and like, he might be a gatekeeper.
Spencer Oliver strips the fight down to its essence. This is the moment we find out exactly where Moses Itauma stands in the heavyweight hierarchy. The beauty of this matchup is that it's not just another showcase, it's a measuring stick. Dillian Whyte is a name, a man with world-level experience, a fighter who shared the ring with some of the sport's biggest punchers. But Oliver's confidence is telling. He doesn't just think Moses will win, he believes he'll do it in style. That's a heavy statement, because style in boxing often means domination, dictating pace, controlling distance, and punishing your opponent without taking unnecessary damage. For Moses, beating Whyte would silence doubters who claim he hasn't faced anyone with real danger. It would also accelerate his climb toward a world title shot, proving that age and experience don't always trump youth and hunger. And let's not overlook the pressure here. Being tipped for greatness at 20 can break a fighter, but Moses has that rare calmness, the composure of a man who's been here before, even though he hasn't. Oliver's prediction feels less like hype and more like inevitability. Whyte is simply the next obstacle on a path that's been laid out for a future world champion.
Give it everything, because he knows it's last chance saloon for him. He needs the victory here. So look, we find out just how good Moses Itauma is. I think on the 16th of August when he boxes Dillian Whyte, because I think he wins it and wins it in style. But everyone they put in front of him so far, he's just dismantled. I think this kid's going to go on and win.
And Derek Chisora, with his trademark bluntness, adds his own colorful twist to the conversation. This is vintage Chisora, half warning, half banter. He openly admits he told Dillian Whyte not to take the fight, which says a lot about how insiders view this matchup. When a fellow heavyweight tells you to steer clear, it's not because they doubt your courage, it's because they know the danger is real. Then there's the part where Chisora messages Moses, almost tongue-in-cheek, telling him not to put Whyte to sleep that badly. On the surface, it's humor, but underneath is the recognition that Moses has the tools to end this brutally. Chisora's been in with some of the division's nastiest punchers, so if he's hinting at a potential knockout, you pay attention. The subtext here is clear. Whitey is walking into a storm, and everyone who knows the sport can see it. The only question is how long he can weather it before the inevitable happens. Moses, meanwhile, isn't fazed by the mental games, the veteran voices, or the big stage pressure. He's locked in, prepared to make a statement so loud it echoes through the heavyweight scene. Chisora's comment might be playful, but deep down, it's an early obituary for Dillian's chances in this fight.
Message him, I was like, listen, I don't know why you're taking that fight, for what reason, and he goes, oh, he don't care, you know, my friend, you know, so I was like, listen, just be careful, and I messaged Moses, I'm like, Moses, just fight him, but don't put him to sleep that badly, basically.
Andrew McCart now gives his view on why this fight is being made in the first place. McCart hits a crucial point. This isn't just about boxing pride. Money talks. He likes the fight, acknowledges Moses needs a real test, but also hints that Whitey's motivation might be more about the payday than the glory. That's a dangerous place to be mentally, because when you're stepping in against a young, hungry destroyer like Moses, it can't just be about the check. You need fire, purpose, and a will to go through hell to win. If Whitey is treating this as a financial opportunity rather than a career-resurrecting war, he's already at a disadvantage. On the flip side, Moses benefits from this dynamic. He's fighting a name opponent who's potentially less than 100% invested in the fight's outcome. That's not to say Whitey won't try, but if the desire to win has been replaced by the desire to cash out, Moses could exploit that lack of urgency and punish him. McCart's analysis strips away the romance and exposes the business side of boxing. Fighters don't just take fights, they negotiate risks, rewards, and sometimes their own exit strategies. For Moses, it's perfect timing. Whitey's name still carries weight, and beating him decisively propels Moses into a whole new tier of recognition.
I mean, I like the fight. The reason being is because Moses Itauma, we've been saying now, is that guy. He needs that test, he needs that step up. And I think Dillian Whyte is that guy. Dillian Whyte's probably found it hard now to get that big fight. He's probably said, I'll fight Moses Itauma if you give me X amount of money. And that's probably why this fight's...
Oladipo lays it bare. If Whyte has any chance, he needs to summon the old school version of himself. That version was gritty, fearless, and willing to turn fights into ugly, punishing brawls. But here's the issue, that Dillian existed years ago, before the wear and tear, before the knockout losses, before the long layoffs. Now he's up against a 20-year-old phenom who grew up watching his antics, who studied him, who knows his style. The path to victory, AD mentions, is telling. It starts outside the ring, meaning preparation, mindset, conditioning. Whitey would need to outthink and outwork Moses before the first bell even rings, and that's a monumental task. Meanwhile, Moses has every physical advantage: youth, speed, reflexes, and the hunger of a man chasing his first big scalp. Watching Whyte try to reclaim his old magic against someone built for the future feels like watching two different eras collide.
And we need to almost see the old school Dillian Whyte who, wasn't afraid of anyone, would put it on anyone, because Moses is still only 20. And I almost feel like if Dillian needs a path to victory, it might start from outside the ring first, and then we'll see. Because there would have been a time when Moses has grown up and he's watching Dillian Whyte.
This fight isn't just another date on the boxing calendar, it's a collision of two very different timelines. On one side, you have Moses Itauma, the 20-year-old phenom, tearing through the heavyweight ladder with speed, composure, and a killer instinct that belies his age.